Welcome to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals, experience, and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. And we believe all investments have merit, and all investments have relevance, and all investments have their time and place depending on you, your objectives, and your goals. My name is Seth Crustman, and I'm joined here once again with John Ryder and Ben Brayshaw. We're all planners and partners with Brayshaw Financial Group. How are you guys today?
Doing great, Seth. Thank you.
Seth.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you listening to Money on Tap. And if you're looking to sit down with an advisor and start making some of the right steps towards your financial goals, we welcome the opportunity to do that with you. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook at Money on Tap. We've got a lot to cover here today, guys. I'm like, what part do we grab first? Because we're
really on part two. Part two. We're talking
it
about,
is really. Yeah,
we're talking about shedding new light on retirement planning, and we were talking in our last show really about the 4 different stages.
Yeah, it was this Bright House. It's this Bright House financial
survey,
thing, which is done MetLife, and the Wall Street Journal partnered in it. And we talked about the 4 stages: the contribution, the accumulation, the mobilization, and the remuneration.
Yes,
which
well said, Ben. Well said.
Yeah, I've actually had the opportunity to practice it over the last week. So, yes. So, but we're going to continue that. And I think, this is what I really liked about this study and what they did really well was they really took the time to understand the fears, the concerns, the issues that retirees and pre-retirees are facing on a daily basis. The things that are going on in their minds, the battles, the struggles, what's next steps to take. The things that they're going through is they're making this transition to understand when to retire, how to retire, and how to stay retired.
Ben, there's a lot of people out there that think that they're the only one. Well, they know other people are going through challenges and that type of thing, but they think, wow, I'm maybe the only person that doesn't have it all together. I started saving late.
Oh my gosh, they got you right next to him, John.
Yeah, I'm self-employed. I haven't been able to put much money away. I never got a 401k, or I got a 401k, but I always kept it in cash. There's so many different situations that people have out there when it comes to their retirement dollars, and many times they have fears associated with the fact that they think they're the only one that isn't doing what they need to be doing, and so many times they just don't want to go and face reality.
Seth, the aloneness, right? I mean, the aloneness people feel inside the speculation of fear that they have is a lie of its own. It's not even true. Like everyone's
right.
Like there's this whole section on this article, taming the wild cards, simply because everyone's living in the same fears.
And it's kind of like the social media. People can spend that are on social media can spend a lot of time looking at the highlight reels of other people's lives and comparing them to their own and feeling like they just haven't measured up. And that's such a lie. Like you said, it is. I mean, it's so easy for us to talk about the stock pick that we doubled, we tripled, we hit the home run basically.
Hey, it's a comparison
and everybody
game.
shares that.
Yeah.
Everybody shares that story, right?
Hey, think about this.
The Joneses,
guys.
I was
talking to a buddy of mine the other day. Isn't Facebook funny? Facebook is funny because everyone's showing their best pictures. So you might have had 1,000 pictures taken at your wedding, but you're going to have those 11 that looked really good. They're going to show up on your Facebook page. Or, you're showing everyone the best place you stayed on vacation, but you're not showing people the hotel where it was less than adequate. You're not showing people the car that was really dirty. It's always we want to show people the best out there. So there's this comparison trap when it comes often to retirement planning too.
And we most often will live our lives through a lens of failure because of that pain experience. And the same happens. We just talked about this where there is the greater reaction to the loss of a dollar than the gain of a dollar.
Yes, the joy of the gain. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There's people will remember that, like, and kind of focus on and live their lives through that trap of the fear part, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit. Just starting off is how do we tame some of that? What are these things that we know that might be coming at us down the road, but we just don't have any control over, and they're the wild cards, right? in our planning that everybody has heard about or has some kind of an identification with. And there's definitely some of these out here that we can work through, we can talk about, but I think uncovering those is just our first step in this process.
Well, I think people are dealing with that balanced fear, right? So, one of the fears, and this article references to it as well, but it's clear as day. People want reliable income in retirement. They just want to know the check's coming through the door. And there's usually one spouse who manages the money and the other one that doesn't, and they just kind of, check in when they need to, kind of thing. And that's totally fine, and that's kind of the majority, I would say, of the relationships.
It makes sense, so that people want regular because, what have they had throughout their whole retirement, throughout their whole working lives? They've had a regular paycheck,
right? And
day in and day out,
and they know how to manage that. They know how to work with that. They know how to struggle through the times when they have excessive expenditures and they have times of profit.
They have to borrow from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, they understand how to play through those games. But I think
I wish I had something to add there, like tighten up the belt, or you said rob Peter to pay Paul. What's the other expression?
Rob Ben to pay Seth. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep payroll going here sometimes.
So
tighten up the belt strings there.
That's right. Tighten your belt up.
But that's actually one of the other fears they listed here. People don't want to hear tighten up the belt.
No, they want to keep on
spending.
They
don't. If you just set up an income, they know what their expenses are going to be roughly. Most of them have done the math, right? We talked about last week. When they're mobilized, they know exactly what they need to have to retire. And then, if you give them that number and they've declared it to be their number, they'll make it work through good and bad. And they've done that their whole lives with jobs. But then the other side is when they get the fear of job insecurity. When they're afraid that their job might end because maybe they're getting too old or looking for someone younger to pay less money, right?
They see friends get laid off. We're seeing that a lot right now.
Yeah, we had one client who, praise God, he accepted the offer. Next thing you know, they had layoffs at the company.
Yeah.
He accepted the buyout offer. And so, and I don't know he would have even gotten laid off, but it was kind of like, hey, peace of mind. He was extremely happy with that advice. But these are real, competing fears, right? I need regular income like a job, but if I have job insecurity, how do I create that? And then they're like, well, I have all this stuff. What is the wild cards that these people are facing?
One of the biggest wild cards out there is the fact that the economy is in a crazy in a crazy place right now. Now, we've all been enjoying this run-up, this bull market that we've been seeing where we're hitting new highs every day. But the economy is certainly a wild card for people out there. Think about this. If you're 65 years old right now and you're retiring and you have all of your money sitting in a 401k, let's say you have $400,000 or $500,000, $600,000, or maybe $100,000 or $200,000 sitting in a 401k. If you leave that money in there, which you certainly have the ability to do, and take a stream of income from that, there's certainly a true reality that you could wake up in the next couple of weeks, next month, and your money could be down 10, 15, 20% based upon what's happened in the past with the markets.
One of the greatest questions was asked in this survey, and this, I think, was a genius question. I think this is a telltale, like straight out of the bottle, like the number one thing. If you hear this today, you'll understand the difference just by the language of it. If you're sitting there,
you have me on the edge of my seat right now, Ben. I'm trying to. I read the same information, and I'm wondering what is this that you're about to pull out of the hat?
When people were asked what would make them happier in retirement, a $2,000 a month pension or $300,000 in a single payment of cash,
right?
What do you think they chose? So $2,000 a month for the rest of your life, or $300,000 in cash.
That's a tough one to answer.
Well, it matters. If I got a terminal sentence and I'm going to be dead next year, I'll take the money up front.
Yeah, but the majority of people took the $2,000 a month.
Sure,
I think
proof.
Kind of like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
What do you want?
It's
all
a lot.
Up
front or reduce
an annuity.
But you think about it, $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year. 10 years, that's $240,000, right? Mm-hmm. So you're basically looking at about 13 years, roughly, in that range to break even with $300,000. Mm-hmm. Now, if you were to have $300,000 and make 5% off of that, right? That's $15,000 a year. You're $9,000 shy of a guaranteed life payment, just to try to preserve an asset. people, majority of people wanted the income over the cash asset, and they didn't care there was nothing left at the end.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and I can too. And that's in most of the people that are mobilized. When people are mobilized to retire, that's what they want. When they're in that contribution and that accumulation phase that we talk about, they don't see that. They don't see value in that.
So if you're wondering kind of what I think, what is, if you're mobilized, I think of it as a lot of retirement planning can be kind of like planning a trip, right? Have you picked the destination? Okay. Have you sat at the kitchen table and had the conversation and looked at the pictures and thought where you want to go? Well, mobilization is a little bit like, did you buy the plane ticket? How are you committed? Did you get in? And that's a little bit about mobilizing, is because now we have a vehicle that we've either chosen a car or a fifth wheel or an airplane, whatever it is, we've now decided to get going. And we've kind of chosen that path.
Committed.
Well, and that's when people walk through our door and they say, listen, here's my statements, here's my stuff. It only took them 20 minutes to put it all together. I need you to take this over. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. That's a mobilized person. Somebody we have to say, hey, listen, this is what we're going to need. This is what we're going to need. Like, they all know what we need. There's not a person out there that doesn't know when they meet a financial planner that, hey, they're going to need a copy of my statement, my wills, my trusts, my healthcare directives. They want to know what's going on. They want to know who to contact if something happens to me. That's what planners do. They're engaged on all fronts. Something happens to you in your health, we're calling your power of attorney. If something happens, inside your trust, you pass away and you need something done, we're engaging your attorney.
Ben, it's interesting that you mentioned all that. That reminds me of the conversation we have with our clients every time they come in about our client portal. The client portal just has that ability to have everything on the same page, so the clients can see it all in one place. We've been finding people especially like this when it comes to their healthcare powers of attorney. If you're on your way to the hospital, you can take your iPhone, have that with you, and have that document with you.
Use our app. Download the document, email it to the doctor. You don't even need to download. You just put the email address in and send it off to them and say, here's everything you need. Because the last thing you want to be doing is like when you go to the hospital, and if you're an older person, you've been there, and if you've been there for a major thing, they say, well, listen, do you have healthcare directives? No. And they hand you the sheet, check box here, check box, like you're going through this thing, and then you're signing it. And then what happens, right? The Terry Schiavo case, that's right? Everyone knows Terry Schiavo in this world of healthcare directives.
Yep.
Then you've got to fight over, were you filling that out in distress? She really wouldn't have chosen that, or he wouldn't have chosen that if he wasn't sitting on the hospital bed today. What does he really want? These are things that we make part of our world. We bring that solution to the table. It is a necessity in today's world.
It is. And so, Ben, something that you were just going over with a client that recently came in, they were coming in, this is a new client, and they had, really their assets were all over the board when they came in. I have some money over here, I have some money over here, I have a life insurance policy over here, I have a stock over here, I have, obviously I have wills and trusts in place. They have done a ton of different individualized planning, but they really did not have a handle on how it all fit together. And the client portal does a tremendous job of pulling all of that information together. People can take a look at one web page and see how all of their different investments are performing. They can see how they all work together to form a game plan, and that is just so powerful.
It's funny. I can't even think of the client you're referencing, but it sounds like all of them. And I don't mean that in any sort of derogatory manner. I mean, honestly, people have never engaged in creating organization around their finances. And the ones that have don't even understand what organization is until we put it in place.
Okay. Hey, have you guys been, Seth, have you been to Disneyland with your kids, Disney World? Have you been to Disney?
No.
Ben, have you?
I have.
Okay. So you
I've
are going to go.
Quarry.
At some point, Seth, you probably will go. But I will say this. Does everyone know someone out there? And I do. I just think of some people I know from my church. But people that are just Disney fanatics. I am not one of them, just to be honest with you.
Oh,
but
whatever.
I'm not. I know you
You're
are,
wearing
Ben.
Mickey Mouse ears now, John.
Ben, I know you want to go and have a great time with all the Disney princesses and all this stuff. But let me tell you this. People that are true Disney fanatics, they have figured it out as far as figuring out how to get the different passes and this and that. It takes a lot of work to figure out what hotel you're gonna stay in, what shuttle you're gonna take over, what parks you're gonna hit, how many days you're gonna be there, all this different thing. It takes a lot of planning. It really does. And I can genuinely tell you this: the people that are true Disney fanatics and have spent a lot of time doing that, many times those people have spent more time planning just a one trip for a vacation that lasts for a week, 10 days, or 2 weeks. 2 weeks in Disney. That's way worse.
Oh, don't even.
That's way worse than 1 week in Disney. But they have spent much more time planning that trip than they have their retirement. And I'm very serious about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that people they've signed up for the 401k. Maybe they opened up a Roth IRA. Maybe they bought an insurance policy over here. Didn't spend a whole lot of time doing it. Not that you have to spend tons of time.
Yeah, John, that's an unbelievable point, and it's true. I mean, it's true. I mean, I literally know people who spend more time planning the trip
I'm talking
than
one
being
trip.
on the trip.
Yes. As opposed to a trip that will last from age 65 to 95.
My poor
or whatever
wife
it may be.
spent hours upon hours upon hours on the phone with Disney. I mean, she was on hold forever, and there's any other thing trying to book a dinner or a lunch or whatever. And
Why weren't you doing that, Ben? Why would you have her doing that? That's terrible.
Oh man, I was like, this is an obligation I got to do for my kids. I mean, I'm not, I think Disney's wonderful. It was really a great experience, and we had a wonderful time.
Now tell the truth, Ben. How much?
But
How much
it's
do you like
just-
Disney, Ben?
but it's
Tell me
not
that.
my-
How much do you like Disney?
You know what?
It
You're
is
making
not
my
going
trip-
to a Patriots game, baby, which I do a
Sweating,
lot of planning
sitting
for.
in long lines, sweating.
Oh
you
man,
know.
it is.
You're making my trip to Quartz Creek to pick out rocks to wash and then paint the next day sure sound a lot better.
Oh,
yeah,
Right?
and a heck of a lot cheaper too. So come
Yeah.
on.
So
I love
but
it.
I think you make a great point, and people are not dealing or addressing financial planning. I mean, honestly, they probably you think about the various funds or stocks or investments that they pick out. There's probably a matter of a few minutes in the decision making process. Isn't that scary? And if I'm sure there's a lot of people listening saying, "Yeah, he's stinking right, man. I can't believe it." But the truth is that if you did pick the right thing, don't you want someone to confirm that?
to
Don't you want-
validate what you're doing.
Yeah, like just break it down and say, yeah, this is what we're doing. And then with the demographic stuff that we talk about and trying to amplify where you're investing to be in the most advantageous areas for demand and supply needs, that's stuff you need to understand and make sure that that's echoing through your portfolio choices. Not like sitting on the end of this line saying, hey, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we should do that. That's great. That's great. And then they never reallocate their 401k. And that's the problem. People get a lot of advice, but they don't sometimes act on it. And that's a fearful thing.
You're listening to Money on Tap, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Ben Brayshaw, one of the co-hosts of Money on Tap. If you have questions when it comes to your retirement and are looking for a personalized solution, contact us at Brayshaw Financial Group. In today's volatile stock market, we can help you plan to find your successful retirement solution. Am I saving enough? Am I saving into the right places? Do my investments match my appetite for risk? Do I have a tax strategy that is going to help me keep more of what I earn? How can I maximize my Social Security income? If you are like most people, you are getting closer and closer to your retirement and may be wondering if you're taking the right steps. If you're in retirement, you may be wondering, am I maximizing my income while preserving my estate and caring for my family? We talk about all things financial in what we call three-dimensional investing, putting a plan around your financial future. If you feel that now is the time to start getting the answers to some of these questions for your own situation, give us a call at Brayshaw Financial Group at 855-226-8551. Headquartered in Bedford, New Hampshire, we have offices throughout New England and across the country. We would love the opportunity to show you how we can help. There's absolutely no cost or obligation just to meet with us, and we welcome you to our office. Call us at 855-226-8551.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, and we're bringing out professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. You can also find us at Facebook, at Apple Media, wherever you get your podcasts through, Stitcher. We're out there, and we're glad you're listening. And if you do have a concept that maybe you're struggling with or something that you're curious about or something that you'd like us to discuss, We love engaging with our audience that way. Please email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And if we roll out that concept, then guess what? You're going to get a hat or a T-shirt. Your
Money
pick.
on Tap swag.
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 Yes.
Does anyone say swag anymore?
That's a
I
great
don't
word.
know.
That's a great word. We should bring that back. It's a great word.
A retro word. Absolutely. We were talking about retirement income, and Ben was just talking about the fact that retirees would prefer to have a $2,000 a month pension check come in than necessarily a lump sum of money. Was it $300,000?
$300,000.
Yeah. And you know what? The fact is, people do want to have reliable streams of income. Those reliable streams of income can come from such things as pensions. Of course, we've talked about pensions. We don't really have a whole lot of them anymore.
Yeah, pensions are dying.
And a lot of people out there that have pensions are concerned about
And they're under
them.
fire.
That's right. It's because they're under fire, because they're underwater. A lot of these pensions just aren't doing well. They're underfunded, and as a result, many people are concerned about their future retirement income from there. But another thing, so we
To
have
make the story better, John, go to the next point.
well, we have pensions, we have Social Security. Well, does Social Security get any better? No, Social Security is kind of rough too. But people want to have a web of financial security. They want to have a lot of different income streams coming in, so that they know that every single month when something is due, when taxes are due, or their car payment is due, that they're going to have the money to be able to pay for that.
And that's the foundation that we talk about all the time, is having your foundation for income, your foundation of retirement, your foundation of where it's going to get you to the next level. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have a foundation and you're building your house on sand and the whole market comes crashing down, what do you got?
And Ben, that's exactly right. That's one of the reasons why many times we'll use an annuity to help people have a base form of pension in addition to those pensions.
Yeah, we got I mean, why are people up in arms about the pension issues and the Social Security issues? They're up in arms because they want those things. They know intrinsically that foundational elements are extremely valuable to their retirement. It's the only thing they say they can count on. We had a military serviceman in talking about his military pension, and we were talking about how that's just so much better than Social Security. It's kind of like, hey, if he's not collecting his pension and our military's not around, we got bigger problems to fry, right? I mean, that's a whole nother issue to deal with. So when it comes to any sort of investment, and annuities are a wonderful tool when it comes to creating income. If you don't have a pension, or you're fearful of Social Security, or you just want to tag team a pension and Social Security or a portion of it, it is a great stinking tool to be looking at.
That's funny that you say that, Ben, because every time I open up the newspaper or I click on a link online, it talks about annuities, and stay away from annuities because, boy, they are expensive. And you know what? They are expensive.
Yeah.
However, if you have a solid benefit that is giving you some guarantees down the road, then that could be a good use of that money.
Yeah, when you're looking at something that has an expense, right? When you're looking at something that has an expense, you have to ask yourself, what are you paying for?
Sure.
Right? I mean, you can go buy a Volkswagen, a BMW, or a Maserati, or whatever it was, but you're paying for something. Something about that vehicle said, hey, it's worth the extra dollars.
Volvo did a great job, and they have done a great job over the years of letting people know or marketing their car as a safe vehicle.
Right.
And that's what they spent their money. It wasn't talking about luxury. It wasn't talking about speed. It wasn't talking
reliability,
about elegance or reliability. But here's what it did. It made you, if you were a parent that had some means and you had some money and you knew when your kid turned 16 years old and got behind the wheel, then you knew that if you wanted a safe car, who doesn't want a safe car for their kids, that you would go out and buy a Volvo. And I don't know if they so much promote that as much these days, but I can tell you they were probably the pioneer when it came to having airbags coming from every different direction, having a solid steel wraparound cage where.
And that's what an insurance company does, is they create airbags on income.
But it's expensive to do that. And you know what? A Volvo wasn't the cheapest car you'd be buying off of the production line, that's for sure. And nor is an annuity. Because you know what? Right now in today's world, if you want to buy investments out there, you can buy investments for hardly anything. I mean, we see sometimes people come into the office and they'll have an index fund where they're paying a very, very, very low expense ratio. And that may be fine. That may be helping them reach the goals that they want to reach, and that can be great. But the
Or it might
downside, or it might not. But the downside is the fact that they're just riding the market out with whatever it does. There's no professional manager in there. There's no one that's deciding, you know what, it's time for you to move out of that, or it's time for you to move into this.
And there's no tactical effort to look at just even getting out of the market.
Nope, extremely passive. Whatever happens.
Being at where we're at right now in our stock market, tactical allocations are a real consideration for people. Like, you want to pay someone to say, we're getting out.
Okay, so if you're out there and you have $500,000 sitting in an index 500 fund that's not being managed at all, to me that would be a very nerve-wracking place to be, because with the markets run up as they have, it'd be very easy to see a significant correction then. Bigger deal if you're 65 plus.
When this correction happens, you're going to hurt. And it's going to hurt bad. And the closer you are to pre-retiree or retiree, the more it hurts.
And why is that? It's because it takes a longer time to recover. You know, if you're 20, 25 years old, not a big deal.
People walk into our office and say, gosh, I lost all this money. I need to talk to you about it. And then they say, I'm going to wait for it to come back, and I want to do all that you just said. It's like, wait, hold on a second. Do you realize that those are competing thoughts? That those don't actually go together? This is where you need to change that thinking. When we talked about, in our last show, okay, it was like you need to go against some of those instincts that you believe to be the case, because honestly, you're not 25 years old, able to wait it out and let it recover because you believe it's a solid company. You need to be in something that's going to recover in a way that's going to meet your needs to get you to retirement. That's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. That's the argument. That's the problem. When we look at these wild cards, what are the wild cards?
Well, a lot of people ask, where the wild cards are. Where are they?
So your wild cards, what have we been kind of bringing this back to and talking about? There are some factors that are external, that are out of our control, that are potentially inevitable, which could be a market crash, could be the market's volatility, could be a low yield environment that what do we mean by that? Basically, you're not going to go and put money in a CD and get 5% return, right? That's a low yield.
Yeah.
We're looking much less than that. And inflation. So how many of those factors do you have any input in? Well, there's preparation that can take place to accommodate some of those. And those are the wild cards, though. We don't know when or how they get pulled. I'm getting there.
All right.
It was intentional.
Oh, okay.
I'm being thoughtful about this. The last, and certainly not least, is health issues and expenses, and that is the one out of them that out of the 5 that really the top wild cards that we're deal with, that is not a market performance or market related.
Yeah, everything else is market related. So we're worried about the market going up and down. We're worried about a stock market crash. We're worried about a low yield environment. We're worried about inflation. Our money not buying as much now as it will in 20 years, or buying less than 20 years.
I look at these numbers. Okay, so market crash. Okay, this is what people believe. So people believe that 70% basically of people believe a market crash is going to happen. 65% believe market volatility going to happen, big time. 64% health issues. Okay. But then you look at inflation, which is the lowest of the 5, it's 46%. Like, this is the silent killer right here. This puppy is going to be a real problem for us.
But why is that? So because you have people with fixed income.
People don't understand how much trouble we're in with inflation and what's coming down the road. And honestly, in my opinion, the lies that inflation is, because there's no real consistent,
measure, right?
there's no real consistent, comparable measure. I mean, you can look at all the government ones, and there's all different variables, and it's all, in my opinion, bogus. It's just bad data.
Inflation is different things for different things. So you talk about education, huge inflation. Anyone that's paying for college education knows. Healthcare, huge. You may not notice it as much.
A gallon of milk at the store.
Yeah.
If you have kids and you're going to buy a gallon of milk, there's no way we're having an inflation rate around 3%. It's just not that way.
Right.
I mean, and if you're paying for college today, well, you're in a completely different inflationary bracket.
And let me tell you about people that really feel the effects of inflation. People that have had Social Security for years, and they are not getting increases. I guess we're getting an increase this year, but we did a past show about Social Security increases, and it's few and far between where we're getting increases. But if the cost of living is going up at 3 to 4 to 5%, in your pension
or
your
6 or 8 or 10, depending on which person you're actually listening to.
Exactly, and if your income is staying the same or just going up slightly, it's not enough. So you have a lot of people out there, and we've all heard of retirees who are saying, you know what, I'm having to make decisions on what I'm going to buy. And sometimes it gets as drastic as I have to make a decision on whether I'm buying groceries or whether I'm buying my pills.
So the argument, hold on. So the argument, Seth's trying to provide it, I'm sorry. So the argument about salaries, right? When Obama was in office, there was an argument about salaries and locking in salaries, raising the minimum wage and all this stuff. And I am not against people making more money.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, I'm not. What I don't think people understand is that when you pay somebody more money, that means you're going to have to pay more for the services they provide, which increases the push on inflation.
Trickle down.
And this is really what I don't think people understand, that even though inflation is the lowest of the wild cards rated by their study, I think it's probably the biggest or second biggest fear we should be having as a nation and as a retiree or pre-retiree person, and how to address those issues. How to, John, when we made a presentation to somebody the other day, they were already a client, but they were retiring early, which was a wonderful story. And they were extremely happy. And they're like, I can't believe we're 5 years early and everything's good. All of that stuff was fantastic. And then we said to them, well, this money we're not going to turn on because this is your inflationary money.
Yep.
And they're like, thank you. That's the part that people are not really preparing for. And honestly, we as planners can only plan for it. We can't tell you what it's going to be. The crystal ball doesn't exist. Like, this is what a gallon of milk's going to cost in 20 years. But I'm telling you, it's probably going to be like $20.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I saw an article that did some comparisons of cost of living across the U.S. And there was if you moved from, these 50 cities to these 100 cities, what was the difference in cost of living? And it was basically, I think, Portland, Maine to Twin Falls, Idaho. I think it was almost a difference of about 50%. Wow. It was at least in the high 40s. So anybody in Portland, Maine looking to, maybe modify their lifestyle a little bit, Twin Falls, Idaho.
Portland's
it's gorgeous, I hear.
Portland's nice. That'd be hard to move you.
It gets a little cold in the winter.
It gets chilly, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've identified some of these wild cards, and what are they? And I think that you can start in a place, right, by maybe just limiting yourself to a couple of questions. First, what are 3 things that can go wrong during your retirement years that you are most concerned about? And second, if your worst fears actually come true in the future, what can you do to plan for them now? I think, all these fears are rational. They make sense, right? But there's allowing those fears to take place and take hold in our hearts and kind of have a seed of fear versus, just recognizing them and saying, well, these are important questions, and we should just move through this process as logically as possible. What can we do? What can go wrong in retirement years that concern you the most? And then second, of your worst fears coming true, what can you do to plan for them now?
Playing it safe. There's a lot of retirees out there moving from an accumulation strategy. Well, think about accumulation. Think of accumulation is just where people are putting money away, and but moving from that to an income-based strategy. So if you've been used to putting money away, but now you're thinking, okay, so I'm 60 years old, and I've got to start thinking about, well, how am I actually going to distribute this at some point? That is a great time to start talking to a planner. Of course, starting when you're young in the stage where you're just starting to put some money away is a great time too. But it's very, very important when you hit that pre-retiree stage of 50 plus of thinking about, well, what kind of steps do I need to put in place now to make sure that I can maximize what I'm doing later on? And how can I help minimize some of the risks that I'm taking when it comes to my dollars? There's different ways you can do that through different investment selections that you make.
Well, and this study goes into the fact that 60% of people agree that if whatever they lose now in that pre-retiree phase, that 5 to 10 year period before retirement, that if they don't have time to make it back. I mean, think about that. People acknowledge the truth. They know what it is. 70% of people know they need to take less risk, and 60% of people know that if they lose it, they're not going to get it back. It's like, where do we actually mobilize people and get them out of the accumulation phase and say, listen, let's take some real action. Let's get ahead of this curve. That's stewardship. That's when you step in and you say, hey, being a good steward, I need to take all the steps I possibly can to make sure that I'm taking advantage of all those items.
So there's a lot of ways which we help clients to minimize risk. And Ben, I know we talked a little bit, and so we talked a little bit about annuities, how annuities can help people to reduce their risk somewhat. Also, people can take advantage of perhaps different insurance programs that help to minimize risk. For instance, if you are living in a house right now and you have a mortgage on that house of $250,000, having some type of protection in place that if you pass away so that you don't bankrupt your spouse, that would be a very good thing to consider, having some insurance in place on that. We just set up a pension plan for a client where they're going to get a regular stream of income for their retirement, but also at the same time, we're also through that investment plan also going to provide a death benefit that will pay off their mortgage in the event that they were to pass away prematurely. And so it's just a kind of a two-pronged approach.
Yeah, using insurance, using income strategies and so forth. And a lot of people say, hey, does every piece of income have to be an annuity? And the answer is no.
Definitely not.
We were using brokerage accounts to produce straight-up streams based on historical practices with some foundational elements. There's a lot of moving parts in that program, but when they sat down and we went through it, we organized it and everything else, I mean, literally, John got an email today with, 2 clients, 2 referral people called in, and they gave us 3 other names and said, this is unbelievable. This is exactly what we should be doing. And they started talking to their friends and they're like, I need somebody who does that.
Sure.
And I think people are so scared because they don't want to put a lot of time and effort because their time is so sparse. Like one guy was in today. He's been a client for 18 years. He's like, I'm just so busy. I'm so busy.
Yeah.
And it's just that's a major problem in our world. We're just busy. And people don't want to waste their time doing a lot of stuff and saying, man, if I have X number of hours to live in this world, I don't want to spend it on organizing this right now. And I get that. But if you give it over to us, you're going to save a lot more hours that you'll spend over the rest of your lifetime waiting to find someone like us.
So reducing risk can be done in many different ways. Another way, Ben, I'm thinking of an appointment we just recently had, actually last week, is an engineer who'd worked for years and years and years, real great guy. And we talked about the fact is, he had just inherited some money. He and his wife had just inherited some money, and they could not believe that they're at this stage in their life. These guys are great folks, but they have been missionaries for years and came back into the workplace 10, 12 years ago. And so they kind of felt behind the 8 ball. But the fact is they had done some savings, and really their dollars have really accumulated to a nice degree right now. And we talked to them about the fact that they may really want to protect some of their assets or all of their assets from the possibility of long-term care eroding, the need for long-term care eroding those dollars. One of the first things that she said was something about, that long-term care. Listen, I know someone, my aunt, that had long-term care, and you know what? She never got a dime from it. And you know what? When we looked at the kind of policy, or we talked to her more about the type of policy, we can see how she would be upset. There are a lot of long-term care policies that were sold years ago that really were not designed they're designed only for one thing, and that is if people entered a facility for their long-term care. But there's many times of
what's really scary. What's scary? So there's not a lot of traditional long-term care even available to purchase.
Where do you find it?
Yeah, to purchase anymore. But what's really scary about this, and Seth, we've had this conversation too, is like we don't have enough nursing homes or assisted living facilities to cover even 1% of the retired people in this country right now.
Yeah.
1%, So at the end of the day, when we have the rest of the baby boomers retiring, we can't even build enough places. So these old long-term care programs, which mostly originally only covered people in a care facility and had some, if they had an at-home care scenario, it was significantly reduced, are going to be almost worthless. And so there's a big burnout in the perspective of long-term care. The time where we see real, pinpointed focus on long-term care in this world is when people have experienced it with a family member and it's been successful, and they want it, and they want a lot of it.
Yeah. And sometimes it does work that way. It does work that way sometimes, where it actually works very well.
You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We'll be right back.
John Ryder gives us a better understanding about pensions on this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap.
Pension can be a very, very valuable thing for a retiree. Many people aren't aware, hey, if you're getting a pension for a couple $1,000s a month, do you realize how much money the actual company has to have put aside for that? It's really an incredible amount of money. But basically, a pension is simply a retirement account that an employer maintains to give you a fixed payout when you retire. So we sit down with a lot of people in our offices, and they come in and they'll tell us about their different incomes that they have coming in for retirement. It may be that they have a 401k. They may have a Social Security that they're counting on. But they also may have a pension as well. A pension typically is determined, how much pension you get by how long you have worked for your employer and what your salary was. And when you retire, you can actually choose between getting a lump sum pension or payout or a monthly annuity payment. We see a lot of people that come into our office that they're offered typically like a buyout for their pension, and they can actually either take a lump sum or they can actually get a monthly amount coming in. So many times what we are doing as advisors is helping folks to understand, hey, is it better for me to actually take a lump sum here, or is it better for me to take the monthly payout? And sometimes that lump sum can be very attractive, but sometimes you wouldn't want to trade that for that monthly income that they have the ability to have coming in. But many people really aren't aware of really how valuable those pensions are. But you think about this. If you think about a pension, you think about that monthly income that is driven every single month by that underlying sum of money. It has to be an incredible amount of money to actually generate a decent pension over time.
Find out more about three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning with Ben Brayshaw, Seth Pressman, and John Ryder on their weekly radio program, Money on Tap.
Welcome back to Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we've been talking about, some of the ways that we might move through these retirement pieces here. And there's a little bit of science that goes around being happy in our spending. And we're leading into that, moving through some of the wild cards that we just don't know what might happen in a retirement. That might be market crash. That might be a health problem. But what about crafting our spending in a way, or creating our retirement in a way that we're spending money in a way that allows us more freedom, that allows us more happiness, that allows us to enjoy this retirement piece of our life a little differently than just kind of trying to think about each individual expense as it comes up. There's the quote I love here is from Harvard Business School professor and co-author of Happy Money, Michael Norton, demonstrated that spending on experiences, especially those that bring you together with people, delivers more happiness, bang for the buck, than material goods. For instance, you mentioned the Maserati, you mentioned the car, the jewelry, the things. Those at a certain point are not gonna get us good feelings, the kind that we want to, that real deep, satisfying type of experience of great memories and great stories that you can have for years to come. And I think that I couldn't have said that better myself. And I think one of the things that allows for that type of exchange is some thoughtful presentation or some thoughtful mobilization through a retirement income phase where you can solidify what you talked about, John, that web of income, that potential pension stream of income. And it's really an interesting thing of how we're designed, how I think God has created us to just really work within certain types of budgets, I guess, is what I'm trying to get to. Is like once you've gone through that process of understanding a budget and understanding your income,
these people have spent
it's a freedom.
40, 50 years living like that, learning that.
Yeah.
I mean, I meet people with every version of, how to budget their money from the old envelope story. I know people that literally cash their checks, put it in envelopes for cash. They go to the grocery store and they buy the stuff in order of importance, hope their coupons go through. And if they can't, they just say, well, I'm not going to take that.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, people have learned how to discipline themselves to the point to find success. And then I've met people who have, very little to no discipline. And, sometimes we actually have to really help them create that discipline and develop that. We've implemented the client portal to help with that a lot, to help building budgets and, download, spending activity and stuff like that to help them understand where some of the holes are in their, in their financial thinking. Because they think, oh, well, I'm doing all right. And this, that, the other thing, but I make this much money. And we're like, well, where's this? And they'll give us a budget where they spend their money. But at the end of the day, the numbers don't add up. And you say, well, wait. And then you find out, well, I stop at Starbucks every day. And it's like, oh, wow.
$6.
Yeah, times $6. And sometimes I get one in the afternoon on the way home on a hard day. And you find out when they actually do their download, hey, I spent $5,000 at Starbucks last year. $5,000. But if that's your one thing and you don't go on vacations and that's what you want to do, that's fine. But if you don't understand that that's an expense that you're incurring, that's the hard part. That's where learning your financial world is the first key to developing, control on it. And so that's one of those things. But that's why I think, Seth, these people love the income programs the most. I mean, even if it's income out of a brokerage account, we'll set it up, dividend stocks, you name it, bonds, whatever it is, pushing out a straight up income that they can basically rely on statistically. And along with maybe the Social Security and the pension and maybe an annuity or, whatever other pieces they have out there. But at the end of the day, people love that. They don't like giving you a call. It says 88% do not like the idea of calling in basically and dipping into their IRAs and retirement accounts separate from the income. 88%.
There's a feeling of insecurity when they do that because they're wondering, well, how long can I continue to do this?
Oh, gosh, what did I do now? Is that going to create a problem long term? That's the fear right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of a built-in savings strategy for a lot of people that have the 401k programs or those types of basically you're going to get a paycheck and before while the taxes are being taken out of that paycheck, that W-2, guess what else is being taken out? That 401k retirement plan, savings plan. So that's kind of a choice architecture that's already been provided, and a lot of the time it's whatever is after that becomes the income of the house and it gets spent. That's the most common way to do that. And so that buffer, that savings plan that's been there, depleting that has a feeling of loss associated with it, and there's no way to replenish that once we go into a retirement type of a typical
a lot of
mindset.
people have anxiety around liquidity. Like they want everything liquid. They want to be able to grab money, and they don't understand prioritization in retirement. That's another issue that exists out there. Like they say, hey, well, I want to take the money from this account. It's like, no, the best place to take it is from this account because that's how it's designed to do. It's like, well, it's like, well, we built, distribution programs and we built accumulation programs, and you want to make sure you're not taking it away from the things that are accumulating for you. You want to take it away from the things that are designed to distribute for you. So those are some very interesting struggles we face as well, as just kind of like trying to help people understand the mechanics around some of the investing strategies and how to create that income.
One of the things we're known here for at Brayshaw Financial Group is the fact that we do a lot of tax incentive financial planning.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that when we are helping people make investment choices during their accumulation stage, we have in mind the stage in life where they'll be pulling those dollars out. And how can we best help them put together a strategy that will help them to minimize the income tax dollars that they have to pay later on. What strategies can we choose now when you're 40 so that when you're age 60 that you can keep as much money in your pocket as you possibly can without having to spend out more than you have to?
Yeah, and I found this over and over again. One time I had a prospect, someone came into my office, we were chatting, sitting down, talking about different things, and we were talking about rates of return and this, that, and the other thing, and they were sitting with an advisor who was talking about X, Y, Z in returns. And I was trying to get through to them that the pre-tax return, it's kind of like, let's just give you an example.
After tax versus pre-tax?
Yeah, just saying, hey, listen, do you want, if you're in a 30% tax bracket, do you want 7% before taxes or 5% after taxes? Which return do you want? And it was just, and I'm just kind of making something real general here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I couldn't get through. I couldn't win the battle because they don't understand what you get to keep. But John, you and I and Seth, we were talking about one thing that I think is a real legitimate fear. And I was having a discussion with somebody who had contacted us about qualified versus non-qualified funds. And I was saying, well, you know what's really scary is what happens if our government throws in a national sales tax? What if we have a national sales tax? And they're like, well, then that would be double taxation, he said to me. And I said, well, you don't think our government's ever double taxed before?
First time, Ben. First time ever.
Yeah. I said, well, he goes, well, I mean, the point of it is not to do that. I said, well, if you're in a qualified IRA, 401k, whatever account, and you take that money out, you pay income tax, and then you go buy something, they don't care where the money came from. It could have come from a Roth IRA. It could have come from a savings account. It could have come from a 401k, but you pay taxes on it. He's like, never going to happen. I said, it already does happen. He goes, what do you mean? I go, every state out there that has a state sales tax, and if you're taking money and you're retired out of your 401k, you're paying income tax, and then you're paying state sales tax. It's already happening.
Yeah.
So the question is, how does that impact 20, 30, 40 years from now? Because one of my fears that has been looming in the back of my mind is our government has allowed us to do Roth conversions for so stinking long. And, so if you do make a good amount of money, more than the contributory portion, you can actually do a conversion, pay the horrendous taxes, but all that money is tax-free forever. So how do they get their hands on that money again? They've got to create a different method. So the only way is when it's distributed out of your pocket to somebody else, and that would be through a federal sales tax. And that's a real concern for us. And I think this stuff is the kind of light people need to see and have conversations about. It may never happen, but if you're not aware of all these different roads, we could have a real problem.
I think that's going to do it for us today at Money on Tap. Thanks for joining us, and we appreciate your listening. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap. You can also find us at Facebook at Money on Tap or yourmoneyontap.com. And just kind of some final words here as you're building this, have some fun.
Yeah.
I love the mindset. Like, think of it as your journey. Think of it as your mission trip that you're creating with some friends and families and relationships, and the places you want to go, the things you want to see, the experiences that you want to have. Put that first and foremost as you're crafting this, because this is going to be unique to you. It's going to be individual to you. And you need to go into this idea with those things in mind and those as your motivation. And the rest of it's just going to kind of unfold and happen. And it's going to be there with the help and the support of your financial advisors, be that us here at Brayshaw Financial Group or whoever you connect with, and that team that you want to surround yourself with. That's what they're there for. And we appreciate, again, you listening to Money on Tap and finding us at Brayshaw Financial Group and calling us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. Thanks again, you guys. This is a lot of fun.
Awesome. Great show, guys.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.